Son of a bitch. Very nice. This actually looks really sick. Yeet. Very flexible. Oh, comfortable. Nice. Right. Another 28 days of a barefoot shoe. Let's see how this goes.
Before we go any further, I have to say this. Firstly, I am not a professional. I am just a customer who bought a product and is sharing his experience and opinion on the product. I cannot say with confidence how effective this product actually is. Secondly, it is not fair for me to give it a review because I am only giving you my opinion and experience about them for 4 weeks. 28 days in this case. So I have to come back to it after a longer period of time has passed since I started wearing them. About 6 months to a year. The way I'm going to tell you my experience will be split into 4 parts. Every week I will tell you my overall experience in that said week. The first week was 2,500 steps. Week 2 was 5,000 steps. Week 3 was 7,500 steps. And week 4 was 10,000 steps or more. It is done like this to make sure I build up my foot strength and not overdo it the first week. Let's begin. My first thoughts about them was that despite the fact that they are training shoes, they look really cool and like everyday shoes. They're not as soft as my Ursus, and the soil was surprisingly hard, but I thought if I move around in them, I would not notice it. But other than that, they were really soft around the rest of my foot. What was weird was that it felt as if my toes could move around more than when I'm in my Ursus, but I could still feel the ground, what the ground was made of and what was on the ground, but not as good as I thought it would have been. One thing is for sure, I'm never going back to my old shoes, even if I've only been in them for a few minutes. But is my opinion going to change after 4 weeks? Let's find out. Week 1, around 2,500 steps. My opinion changed fast. When I tried them on at home, I couldn't tell if I would be able to feel the ground outside. But I can feel everything. I even started to walk on different surfaces just to feel the difference between something like dirt, sand, rock, grass and so on. What it did the most for me was force me to walk. With my old shoes, I could run anywhere all the time because I couldn't feel the ground. But with my Piro, I think that's how you pronounce it, I had to walk. All the stress would have been too much since I just started wearing barefoot shoes outside. I had to switch between my old shoes and my new shoes after I had walked my steps. When I walked, I can tell my toes are also involved when I take a step and it's not just my legs moving. I would experiment with them by standing on a rock and it felt as if my foot shaped around the rock. My foot felt like a towel and not like putting a block on top of another block. That's the same feeling I would have with the ground too. Whatever the shape might be, my foot would form to it. However, in the beginning, it feels better to walk on something soft like grass, instead of walking on something hard like stone. Every time I took off my shoes, my feet always feel more flexible, stronger, healthier, and overall just better. My bones in my foot are being used in a much different way than what they're used to, as if they were beginning to grab the ground now. What is important to remember is how I count my steps. I only start to count my steps when I have my Piro shoes on. That means not when I have my old shoes or my Ursus on. Not even when I walk around barefoot. This detail will be important throughout this video. Week 2. Around 5,000 steps. I have to take small walks after my workout. I did have to look in the beginning where I was walking, but it is very nice to clear my mind and get some fresh air. With all that walking, my toes are now beginning to push the ground as well, along with my gastrocnemius and soleus. But my toes do get exhausted first and most. Walking around with barefoot shoes is training in itself. On day 9 I walked to school with them on, so I had to experience many new kinds of surface area, like on a train and having to use my feet to balance. I definitely had the strangest experience on one train station. Someone almost fell on the ground, and when he landed, I could feel the vibration through the ground with my feet. I haven't experienced something like that, and I don't think I ever will again, but I'm not going to forget it. It was also around this time where the feeling of feeling the world was no longer a new thing, and I loved it. I loved the new feeling so much that I would rather walk almost too much and too fast than going back to my old shoes. Week 3. Around 7,500 steps. That was when I started to understand how many steps it took to reach your goal of walking. I had to take walks around my school to reach them. Even after that, I had to take a walk after I got home, and this was only 7,500 steps. I thought week 4 with 10,000 steps was going to be a nightmare. I was forced to wear my old shoes, so it will not go too fast. I completely forgotten what that feels like. I think that it would have been smarter to take many small walks rather than trying to take all my steps in one bite, because the ball of my left foot would hurt, but only when I was wearing my Piro. Week 4. 10,000 steps or more. Week 4 has rolled around, and I thought it would have been hard since I was struggling with just 7,500 steps. But not taking them off, only if I'm in my house, makes reaching my steps easier. But with 10,000 steps to walk, I would have to go to different places at times I was used to, and I got to see many beautiful and colorful places. On day 24, I kind of forgot to take my Ursus to school and had to run with my Piro instead. After the running was over, my gastrocnemius and soleus, they got sore. Even the day after that, but that did lead me to discover that Piro was better for running shoes than my Ursus, which makes sense because Piro are training shoes that can both be used inside and outside, while Ursus is more an indoor weightlifting shoes. But I'll leave the comparison to the next video. And that was my experience. So let's just go straight to the conclusion. So, after 28 days with my 0 shoes, should you only wear barefoot shoes and never go back to modern day comfortable shoes? Yes you should, if you have the strength for it. You should be able to tell a recurring theme here, which is this is a tool that has the potential to help you with your fitness goal. But why am I being overly positive that you should buy barefoot shoes for everyday use when I gave a very specific it depends with my last 2 videos? The reason for that is the correct toes were very useful when you weren't wearing barefoot shoes or you were forced to wear shoes with narrow toe boxes. It would help with the aftermath. With Ursus for training, it is very much a choice when it comes to the style of training. For instance, maybe a raised heel helps some lifter to move more weight, and it would for me, but I like to feel the ground. Or a cyclist shoe, so you're always attached to the bike. But the bigger reason is that not everybody trains, but everyone always have to put on shoes when they go out the door. That is why I use Piro for that job, as everyday shoes. I know that they are training shoes and you could have bought some that look more modern, but I like to always be ready, and also I have used them for training too, and they're very excellent for that job as well. Now I want to mention a concept in the fitness world we call NEAT, or non-exercise activity thermogenesis. It is when you do a physical activity on a day-to-day basis. A different way of looking at it is training without training, and that's how I see my new Piro shoes. I am training and improving the health of my feet without having to spend time doing any training specifically for that, and I think that is a concept any person could follow. The only thing you need to do differently is move into a barefoot shoe and you're on your merry way. But of course, I do have to say these 3 things. 1, it is not going to help with being overweight, for example. 2, you have to build up your foot strength. I already had a great foundation for my correct toes and ursus, but I still went stone steady, like you should too when you buy your barefoot shoes for everyday use. And 3rd, with week 4 for example, I had to take many different walks to reach my goal. Compared to when I started to write this script, I don't walk as much as 10,000 steps. It was more around 7,000 steps, which you might also be walking. Which a research also shows that 7,000 steps might also just be enough. But again, that's for the next video. But with all my barefoot tools and the 28 days I used them for a video, which I will go into detail with more science and fact-based evidence to sum it all up. Now, to answer the question again, should you buy barefoot shoes for everyday use, such as Piro? From my experience and beliefs, yes. Yes, you should. By the way, I just want to give a big thanks to Zero Shoes support team for being real G's. My international post center were being absolute wank, and they reshipped my package back to America for stupid players PostNord. So I had to contact support team from Zero Shoes when my international post center could do all. So I just want everyone to know that you should buy from them because they care about you getting your shoes and the health of your feet. Goes to show that they're not just some big company who wants money, but they want the best for their customers.